Howdy y'all, and welcome to the first retro tech review on the channel. There's going to be more, don't worry. Today we're going to look at something very unusual, but very effective. So let me start by asking you two questions before we jump in. One, what if they made a device so small that it fit in your pocket, but was capable of boiling water faster than a microwave? And what if you could buy it 100 years ago? Can you imagine that?
Gather round, friends and neighbors, and come see the marvel of the modern age. What the power of electricity has brought us with the miracles of science. I give you a device capable of boiling water faster than you can recite your ABCs. Assuming you know how to read, it doesn't matter. It's not a requirement. All you need is electricity and this one device that can be taken anywhere and will fit right in your pocket. No switches, no knobs, fully automated. It is the Ziff-O-Lec.
What just happened? Am I the only one who saw that? Let's just move on, not talk about it. The point is, the answer to those two questions are, they did, and you could. Meet the Ziff-O-Lec. This nickel-plated beauty was made between 1916 and 1928, or at least as best as I can figure. It not only boils water, it boils water faster than a microwave, and it does so without a heating element, meaning there's nothing inside of it that actually gets hot. But I thought before we took a look at that, we'd take a look at the instructions that came with it. They are kind of interesting. The Ziff-O-Lec electric water heater. For many years, electrical engineers have sought to improve and evolve new mediums for the practical application of electric energy, and much time and expertise has been taken up with the problem of eliminating burning out. That's what we're talking about, because it doesn't have an element. And again, I'm going to explain this. I love this one sentence. It is with pardonable pride, therefore, in offering the Ziff-O-Lec, the newly patented portable water heater. Now, I'm going to address that by saying that it hadn't been patented as of when this was made, contrary to what this says. This was not patented until 1921. The first patent pending was in 1919. Was granted 2 years later. This one was made prior to that, either in 1916, 17, or 18, or early 19. I know that because beginning in 1919, after they applied for the patent, it would say so on the device. And beginning in 1921, it would actually be branded the Ziff-O-Lec on the side. This version contains neither. Also in the 1920s, they switched to enamelware rather than nickel or gold plating like these early ones were, probably because it was cheaper. Admittedly, the nickel probably lasts and hold up a little bit better, but enamelware is pretty good in and of itself. So this is one of the earliest versions, but I think they probably say that on here just because they didn't want other people trying to copy their technology. It was a bluff, a very common bluff of technology of the time period. It is practically indestructible, weighs but 12 ounces and can be carried in the pocket, and it genuinely can be. That's not an exaggeration. In fact, nothing here is really an exaggeration. Let's talk about the uses, though. I'm not reading through everything here, just want to point it out. For the physician and dentist for sterilizing instruments, genuinely I think it would work fine. This is quite effective at what it does. The nursery for heating babies' food, I don't know I would want to stick it in food. It would be kind of hard to clean out, but we'll skip over that one. For the baby's bath, and genuinely I think it could heat up a tub. I genuinely think it could. It is that effective. It might take a little while, but it could do it. Probably faster than the other means that most people were using at the time. Water heaters did exist by this point, but they weren't entirely common and they were very expensive. For the sick room, that kind of tells you what kind of time period it came from. For the hot water bottle, for those who travel, for the merchant and mechanic, for the barber shop, and for any other place where instantaneous hot water is desired. It is indispensable, and it truly is. Now, we're going to talk about this a bit. It says, the Ziff-O-Lec, an automatic electric water heater, so small that it can be carried in the pocket, so powerful that it will heat water in 30 seconds, and it genuinely will. I want to focus on the automatic part. Now, that word doesn't always mean exactly what we think it means, but it does sort of do what it does automatically. It doesn't have any switches, it doesn't have anything. It doesn't have controls, whether it be done by you or the device itself. And again, I'm going to explain how this works here in a minute, and I've made a couple little slides to sort of give you an idea of how it is automatic, because it is, really. You put it in the water, it works, you take it out, it turns off. It does it very simply, but it does do it, and it's very impressive. The bottom, you might notice it came from Los Angeles. At some point in the 1920s, they shifted to Oakland. I'm not sure exactly when that is. I think it was about 1920, maybe 1921. Again, because this is a very old one. But I want to go back up real quick and talk about one particular paragraph, because I think it needs clarification. The Ziff-O-Lec is equipped with a two-part detachment plug. Separate plug and screw in any light socket. Now, let's take a look at what it's talking about real quick. This is a traditional, modern US plug. Well, it's not common to see a round button plug anymore, but it is a standard two-prong. It plugs into any two-prong outlet. Doesn't really matter if it's new, if it's old, any US outlet will hold this. Back then, however, plugs were often different. You see, starting in the mid-1910s, standardization around the world was taking place. They went to this from something more like this. I'm limited by how much I can pull it, but this is the plug to the light that's from 1898 that sits on my background shelf. And I'll take this adapter off. This is what it looks like. It is a standard Edison base light socket plug, and that's what it goes into. It can go into an actual lamp, but it also could have gone into a receptacle that would have been on the wall, much like modern plug receptacles. Now, most of these, they turn. This one, because it's detachable, the lamp doesn't. We might see some more. I have a couple appliances that use them, and I just buy these little Bakelite adapters, which allows me to use them with standard plugs. Back then, because a lot of houses still, let's put that off camera, because a lot of houses still did not have modern receptacles, a lot of things came with these. You can still buy these, though not quite as good of quality as this, and basically it turns it into that. That way you could use it regardless where you needed to use it. They do still sell these, like I said, in case you need to use a light socket as an outlet. They're limited by how much voltage and power can go through them. You wouldn't want to plug a heater in through most modern lamps. Maybe some older ones with porcelain or brass, but not really modern ones. I just wanted to clarify that because this was a very crucial transition point. And like I said, I have stuff that uses just this that I have adapters for, and some of it will be on the channel in the future. Now, let's talk about how this works. I have made two slides. They are very simplified. They're not entirely accurate, but I think they accurately convey how this works. Let's put up the first. See, what you're looking at is the plug wires and the current going through two plates. Again, it's not entirely accurate, but it's accurate enough. There are multiple spots on this that have current going to them, but they are too far away to actually touch, which means the current isn't being bridged. If the current isn't being bridged, no electricity is being used. But when you put it in water, something interesting happens. The water actually works as a bridge and completes the circuit. Now, this means that when you put it in the water, it turns on essentially, and when you take it out, it turns off. This also is important because of how close they are. If they're far apart, nothing much will happen. It'll just electrify the water. But because they're so close, the water molecules are actually rapidly heating and evaporating. That's how the heat is made. It's actually the current heating up the water. This is interesting because almost any modern water heater you will see, whether it be portable or whether it be large, will use some sort of element, maybe a cowl rod element, maybe a coil element, but there will be a device in there that is actually designed to produce heat. This doesn't have that. This turns the water into the heat. It turns the electricity into the heat, which means there's nothing to burn out. There's nothing to wear out. That's one of the really cool things about this. Now it's time for a demonstration. Here in the US, we are tea drinkers, but we typically drink iced tea that's been made in a pickle jar outside in the backyard. The rest of the world uses hot tea. Now, I know most of you probably have kettles if you're from the rest of the world, electric kettles. We don't have those here. They do exist, but they're very rare. Some people will say it's because our voltage is lower, and that is partly true. I will say I have used antique percolators as water heaters, and they will heat the water in under a minute, so it's not entirely true. I just don't think we drink a lot of hot drinks here other than coffee, and a lot of people even drink that with ice in it. I'm not really one of them, every now and then, but not a big fan. So let's put this baby to the test. Now, just to show you how effective this is, first of all, I want you to know that this water is cold. So that's something to consider right now. I did not use hot water in here. It is cold water. It's drinkable water. I'm going to drink some of it. I've put it on an extension cord with a switch so that you can see the second I turn it on, and then we're going to recite our ABCs. And when it's done, we're going to turn them off. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I'm going to turn this off. And the water is very hot. Actually, it's kind of... Okay, this isn't too hot. It is very hot. I'm not sure if you can see it steaming, but it is steaming. And you can probably see just... That's not dirt, that's just hot water. That's why it looks like that. Let's, make a hot cup of tea. Now, ain't that nice? We might not drink a lot of hot tea here in America, but I will say there's nothing better than hot tea when you're sick. It's the only thing that actually tastes like what it is. Ooh, that's still really hot. Lovely. Now, I will clarify, this mechanism that this uses, it's dry now, has been used in other things. Not anymore again, but it was. And there is something on the channel that will come later that uses the same basic idea. It actually has two plates, and the water goes in between them, and rather than heating up the water, it's designed specifically to turn it into steam. It then cooks eggs with it. Literally, it's an egg cooker that uses the same mechanism. And much like this, it is automatic. You just put the water in, it turns on, and when the water's gone, it's off. There's no element, there's nothing to wear out, which is why it still works after about 100 years. It's about the same age as this, the late 10s, maybe early 20s, but I think it's the late 10s. It does need a new cord, unlike this one, which is in absolutely perfect shape. The box, however, has shown its age, but it's still in one piece. It still holds it nicely. And in case you're wondering, yes, I do actually use this, especially when I'm sick and I want to make hot tea. Thank you all for watching, and check back from time to time if you want to see some more stuff like this. I have a lot, and I'm going to be making more videos. Everything from the world's oldest dishwasher to just old regular stuff like old toy trains or old heaters, or like I mentioned, the egg boiler. That'll be a video at some point. I want to replace the cord first. You can check back from time to time. You can subscribe, whatever you want to do. I also do gaming. I also do tutorials. I'm planning a few sketches. I do whatever I want on this channel. That's why I started it, to do the stuff I watch. So, that's it for this time. Happy trails.